Okay, now you're listening to Moonhawk Studios Presents. Okay, now you're listening to Moonhawk Studios Presents. Okay. Okay. Good thing we did a tech check beforehand, but we are live, and this is Moonhawk Studios Presents, and I am nominally your host, Mac Paladin. We have the usual crew of suspects here, so let's go down the roster here. Of course, we have my co-host, Adam.
You do?
It sounded dubious. You sounded doubtful. Like you're like... of course, we also
I
have...
mean, with this show, is it any wonder?
Yeah. Kevin's in the house.
Hello.
Varias is also in the studio.
Hi, everyone.
Petty Fan.
I am the ultra sus.
And we have the Galax.
Yes, we do.
All right, that was our intro. So let's move on to the news very quickly here because we are on a bit of a hard deadline. Adam, what's cooking with you?
I got new shoes as a birthday gift. Like, my birthday is months away, but dear mother won't stop talking about inflation and gas prices, and I don't know what's going to be a price. Yeah, it's kind of fucking tedious. So, long story short, I got my birthday present now instead of then. They're good shoes. So, all right, next victim.
All right, Kevin.
Basically, job at the greeter position at my local AMC theater, and well, that's pretty much it.
All right, Kira.
I really don't have a ton of things to talk about. Made some progress on the Ordnance model. Ready to get back to actual film assembly next week. So, yay for all that. I think that's it.
Okay, as a quick side note, I just hit the button to start recording because I saw the stream integrity go to red.
Oh.
Fun.
Delicious.
It flickered for a second, but it seems fine.
Yeah, but I'm not taking any chances because of what happened last week and what happened during our Overwatch stream on Saturday was Twitch decided to soil the bed.
Yeah.
So we take that again?
No, we're good. I just hit it. I hit it as a precautionary.
Okay.
So that way, if at some point during the broadcast we drop, we have a backup.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have this be a repeat of the Chris Hastings interview from 2010. 30 minutes of amazing banter back and forth with our friend Kim Godwin, lost because live stream went.
Yep.
It's like, hey,
I feel that pain.
Hey, it's like, hey, buddy, could you take that all again? And he's like, what?
No.
And
No.
That was when we were officially branded professionally unprofessional.
Yep.
All right.
Anyway,
Teddy Fan, what you got cooking, bud?
New graphic card, new internet service provider. Woo!
All right, what'd you get?
Graphics card, I got a RTX 3050.
Ooh.
And for internet provider, we are now using T-Mobile.
Huh? Their 5G service, or?
Yeah, they're 5G home.
Oh wow. See, I can't get it at my place.
Yeah, well, hopefully it works better than our cable provider, so we can tell them to go get bent.
Among other
Adam
things.
knows the troubles I've had with our cable provider.
yes, we do.
Oh my.
What would that cable provider be by chance?
Suddenlink Communications, or as I like to call them, Saddenlink.
It's like, and sudden link failure.
Yeah, you should probably find a more French-speaking term, considering they're owned by the French Altice company.
Yeah. Well, not my problem anymore if T-Mobile pans out. So
there you go.
It probably will. I've heard pretty good things about the overall speed and performance of 5G technology.
yeah.
And if you're using it right now, you sound pretty crisp. So.
Well, I was able to do the fragment show through it, so
I
am gonna give that a look over and make sure there isn't too bad stuttering or whatnot for obvious reasons.
Tucson allegedly has 5G service, but I haven't actually been able to find a provider that does it. And of course, T-Mobile is really the only one that has "quote unquote" full nationwide coverage, as the legal definition goes.
Yeah. Well, what makes it nice for us is we live near what used to be Sprint's home office, and they obviously built a lot of Sprint's 5G infrastructure near there, so we're kind of just piggybacking off that.
Got it. Well, all right. Let's see here. The Galax, what have you got, buddy?
The only excitement around here is that there was somebody attempting to jump another vehicle-related car fire at work the other day, but that's not really that much to talk about right now.
All right.
It wasn't mine.
That's all that matters on that front. Yeah. Moving on.
That's what happens when you live in the rural Northeast. All right. So interesting note. Apparently, the Senate passed by unanimous consent that we are going to be locking the United States into daylight savings time.
This may or may not be a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, they have to pass it in the House, so it's not a done deal yet. But the Senate passed that, and they carved out a weird exemption for Arizona and Hawaii, so we can keep our ass in 9 time zone. I'm like, if the point was to not constantly change time, and you're locking us into a time zone, then would it not behoove Arizona and Hawaii to move to daylight savings time and just stay there? I'm hoping that I'm hoping that in a rare show of sanity, the state legislature of Arizona passes a bill moving us up to Mountain Daylight Time.
Or what they call standard time. That's what we're on right now. But yeah, moving us to daylight savings would probably make more sense.
Yeah, that was the proposal, was that they were going to move us permanently to daylight savings time when it rolls up. So, but Arizona wouldn't. So then we'd be on Pacific time perpetually. And to be honest with you, I like standard time when we're on something normal, so that way I'm only 2 hours difference than the East Coast instead of 3. It's just really annoying that they would leave us on essentially Pacific time, and it's anyway. So yeah, so that's the major news for Arizona, I guess. Beyond that, I rebuilt the streaming machine last week, and it almost caused permanent disaster, but I have since smoothed out those problems, and we're using it right now, and it seems to be going without a hitch. So, knock on wood, I can use my Stream Deck and all that stuff. So here you go.
That's
what's another thing I'm looking at getting. Thanks for reminding me.
So now I can do applause and Wilhelm screams and Metal Gears.
And of course the censor button, right?
I don't have that, and there's not enough tape delay for that. There's never enough tape delay for that.
We need like a 5-minute tape delay for that shit.
Yeah, especially with this crew. You never know what's going on.
Yeah, motherfucker.
Well, Adam already dropped the F-bomb in the first 5 minutes, so we can pretty much kiss away monetization on YouTube. So.
Yeah,
all I ask is not in the first 5 minutes, guys. That's all I ask. After that, you can curse like sailors. Beyond that, my insurance has been reinstated, so I can now drive without panic mode.
Well, that's good.
That's fun.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I'll just catch up and then get everything fine. And then I got a letter, and I was like, oh God, what am I doing? So yeah.
With my life, with my car, everything.
So now I've got that squared away for the immediate foreseeable future, and that means that I will be aggressively going out to work to try to get my bills paid over the weekend. So, yay for that.
That is a piece of news I almost forgot about. Last thing I'm going to add. So it turns out I've been waiting on a card to be replaced. There's like 30 to 45 days. I'm like, we're 15 days out from the expiration of this card. I call and find out it went to my old address from 3 years ago, and I'm like, are you serious?
Ooh.
So yeah, they're sending me a new card. They've got it all situated now, and it should be here by the 29th. So yay!
At least we got that. At least that got fixed.
Indeed. All right. I think that's pretty much it for the news. We're going to get to our guest right now because we want to give him as much time as possible before he's got to bounce on us here. So let's get this show on the road. Now our guest tonight is a rather interesting vlogger. His name is Max Miller of Tasting History, and his show is a marriage of food and history. And I am here for this, and I very much want to watch this. So Max, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, because I'm a dummy who does no research,
like I said, that's all that I do. So I'll carry the weight.
You'll carry that load. You'll carry that load. All right. Give us a little background on your show. What is your show about, and how did it come to be?
So before I answer that, I have to say, so I'm from Arizona, and I actually hope that we stay on Pacific time.
Okay.
In Arizona, because I hate the fact that it stays light during the summer. It's so damn hot. So the earlier it gets dark, the better.
Okay.
Anyway, I was excited about that, getting rid of daylight savings time. So the show, Tasting History, it is basically I do my best to recreate old recipes in my kitchen. So I don't use, period instruments or anything, but I do the best that I can in my little kitchen, going all the way back to ancient Rome, ancient Babylon, and then as late as, well, I'm going to be doing some of the latest recipes that I've ever done. The next whole month is going to be Titanic episodes. So, most of the recipes are early 20th century. And then I talk about the history of either the food that I'm making or the people who ate it, or something that I just want to talk about that I kind of shoehorn into the episode that often ends up being what I discuss. Yeah, that's the show.
I see. And what prompted you to come up with this concept?
A few things. One of the things was, so I was obsessed with the Great British Bake Off in its early years. I still love it, but especially in its early years, because it was, I actually learned how to bake simply from watching the show. It was far more educational in its infancy, and they always did like a 2 or 3 minute segment on the history of whatever food they were making. And then they moved away from the BBC, and they got rid of those history sections, and I missed them so much. And so I was always bringing in food to my work. I used to work at Walt Disney Studios, and I would bring in, medieval cheesecake, as one does, and I would talk to people about the history and give them a little lesson if they wanted to try it. And then in Christmas of 2019, one of my coworkers was like, "You should put this online. Tell somebody who actually cares." And so that's how I started the channel. But essentially, my concept, my hope was to sort of replicate those little sections from the Great British Bake Off, but much longer.
Okay. Now, I've noticed you do not have an insignificant following here on YouTube. You have 1.07 million subscribers. And I also noticed that you just said that you worked with Walt Disney Studios. Can you tell us about that? What you did for Walt Disney Studios?
Yeah, so I worked in marketing, and then distribution, but mostly in marketing, working on everything from the trailers and TV commercials, kind of I wasn't actually creating the trailers, but I worked with the teams that did, got to work with some of the editors and everything. I was a little bit more administrative, helping to find music and clear it and all the legal, working with the legal people. Not too glamorous, but it was a lot of fun, and I learned a ton on how to pace things. I mean, I wasn't editing videos, but I was working with some of the best editors in the world, people who could take a 3-hour Marvel movie and, condense it down into 3 2-minute trailers and still tell the story and have an arc and have a beginning and middle and an end in just a very short time. And I think I learned a lot of storytelling and everything from simply osmosis from watching them work.
See, now I've emphasized this a lot to the crew that everything that we can do to advertise our program and get it out there, whether it be via social media or word of mouth or literally any means at our disposal, is probably as important as the content of the show itself.
Yeah. I mean, if the content's not good, of course, when people come watch it, they won't stick around. But you got to get people to watch it first. So if the content's great and nobody's watching, well, good for you. And that was, that's part of what I find hardest about YouTube is the advertising part, because in YouTube you get a thumbnail and a title, and that's all of the advertising that YouTube allots. And those are a good YouTuber, those are the first things that you think of. You think of the thumbnail and the title before you even think of your video. And I'm usually doing them, the day before I put the video out. So I'm not the kind of person that you want to follow in that respect. But when it comes to actually putting the content out there and getting people to watch it, I don't do it so much anymore. But at the beginning, it was just like post everywhere, and that's how I got my first following in those first couple of months. Was I would post in Facebook groups, and then I would post on Reddit, to the chagrin of many subreddits. They would be like, "Yeah, you got to stop, dude." But I didn't, and it worked. So now I don't have to. But yeah, it's so hard to get people to know about you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been chased out of many a subreddit myself, so I've given up. I even have a account name that does not trace itself directly back to me to avoid doxing.
Smart.
And I'm not going to share that name on this broadcast.
Is it Pac Maladin?
No, it's
now he
Seattle.
has to go make another one.
It's Seattle Slewfoot.
Jesus Christ. If someone were to be binge watching your program, what would you want to emphasize? What are some classic episodes of Tasting History?
I mean, the one that really made the channel take off was a video on garum, which is an ancient Roman fish sauce. Now I look back at that episode and I just cringe because I didn't know how to do. I still don't, but I really didn't know how to do lighting or my camera settings, and everything was kind of off. I've gotten a lot better about that, but that one, so often the videos that do well, it's just because it's an interesting topic, and ancient Roman fermented fish sauce seemed to be something that people gravitated to. I think my video on pizza, the history of pizza, is very interesting, and I make one of the first recipes for something called pizza, which ends up being a sort of very huge round croissant with sugar. it really bears no resemblance to a modern day pizza, but delicious. And I think it really depends on what you're interested in, because not everybody's interested in every time period.
Right.
And I bounce all around. So it's like, if you're into the medieval age, I have tons of stuff for you. If you're into ancient Rome, tons of stuff for you. But maybe you don't like both of those. So wherever you start, there you are.
Right. Okay. Now, did you ever have a personal favorite dish so far? Any particular standouts that you've made that you're like, you know what, this doesn't look like it would be the kind of thing that I'd really like, but I surprised even myself.
Yeah, actually, one of them was a medieval Transylvanian beef with garlic sauce. It's called garlic harvester sauce, and it was from the kitchens of the Prince of Transylvania, and it's in this weird time period where they're getting away from thickening sauces just by adding bread, which is how it used to be done. You would just add breadcrumbs to thicken things. But before the now, before roux were being used and a lot of eggs and everything, it does use egg, but it also uses heavy amounts of vinegar. And you don't usually think of like a vinegar sauce as being good, but it ended up being really great. It was like a vinegary garlic mayonnaise. It was delicious, and everyone who's made it has really enjoyed it for the most part. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Have you ever thought of doing crossover episodes with like other cooking celebrities, like I don't know, TikTok's Dylan Hollis or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, thought about it, absolutely. He and I go back and forth sometimes on, Instagram and in Facebook comments and everything. It's hard. It's really hard. I've done a couple collaborations, and they are so much more difficult than a normal episode. And I'm kind of a one-man band, so I'm usually spending about 60 hours a week working.
Ooh.
So anything more becomes a real problem. I don't have there's not a lot of room for screwing up. I can't take a sick day. And so taking on those sometimes it takes twice as long to make the episode. So I've kind of shied away. If somebody else wanted to kind of, if I'm the guest star and I show up, then great. But the extra editing and working with two mics and everything, it sounds like it'd be easy, but it really just adds a lot. So I haven't.
Or even if you try to do it remotely, there's like stitching files together and stuff.
Yeah. It's so much more complex than I thought it would be. The first time I did it, I was like, oh, this will be super easy, and then it was like, oh, this took me twice as long to do an episode. So, and I think that with some types of channels, the kind of collaboration between channels is a real boon to the individual creators and everything. But for me, it's simply a matter of, hey, wouldn't it be cool to work with this person? Because I haven't found that they actually necessarily, it's hard to bring an audience from one channel to another. It's pretty damn near impossible. I think in back in the day it was much easier when there were maybe less channels, I don't know. And in some, if you're doing vlogs or something like that, I think it works. But if you're into food history, by this time I figure you've already found me. So it's kind of like
Well, and this is no small accomplishment. As I said, you seem to have quite the following. So to be able to bring, for example, as I mentioned with Dylan, he kind of is more comedy based than actual historical value. And that is, of course, the nature of the beast when you're dealing with stuff like Reels and TikTok. But yours is more of a long format. Beyond the Great British Cook-Off, did you have any other specific influences that sort of informed the kind of show that you make? Because like Julia Child, or anything off of the Food Network, or anything that inspired you?
Yeah. Though honestly, for me, it's been less food based and more history based because that's really where my passion lies.
Oh, okay.
The food is simply the way that I trick people into learning about history. Um, and that really is that truly is it. Now in like a 17-minute video, it'll be like 5 minutes of cooking and 12 minutes of history. But just from format and the way that they tied things in, two of my big influences, and I don't want to say that it was even conscious.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like after I was working on the show for a while, I was like, oh, I can see where this influence really, really landed. Uh, one was Bill Nye the Science Guy, and one was Alton Brown. In Alton Brown's Good Eats, he used to infuse less history and more science, but it was, 6 of one, half dozen the other. He would infuse those stories in, and they were stories. It was education, but it was in story format. And it was the same thing with Bill Nye. Bill Nye the Science Guy, that show back in the 90s, growing up, I used to watch it, and it was like, getting a 9-year-old kid to watch 22 minutes of science is not easy, but he did it with aplomb because he told stories and he had humor. Was it dad jokes and bad puns? Yes. If you watch my show, you will see a lot of dad jokes and bad puns, but it's enough that it disarms you. It makes it so sometimes a very serious topic, or a topic that can often be handled in a lot of history shows as a little bit dry, it just makes it a little bit more accessible to someone who isn't necessarily deep into that topic. I love those really dry shows and documentaries and books and articles. So I then read those and absorb that and regurgitate it in a shorter, lighter manner. That's basically what I do.
All right, and that kind of and you kind of gave me a nice little lead in for my last personal question, and that is you. It's good that you brought up Alton Brown and Bill Nye specifically as reference points, because both of them, while they do have experience and training in the disciplines they present on television, they are not specifically in those fields. Alton Brown was an entertainer and a marketer before he was a chef, a celebrity chef on TV, and Bill Nye is a mechanical engineer, which is definitely a scientific discipline, but isn't traditionally associated directly with being a scientist. So the question is, in your own background as a marketer, and I'm kind of bowling this question, so let me start over again here. Do you have more of a training in history, or what? Or are we going to find out that you have a liberal arts degree?
Yeah, no. So my degree is, I'm a performer. My degree was in vocal performance or classical voice. And then I was in musical theater on Broadway and off Broadway for years in New York. And when I moved out here, I did voiceover, animation and audiobooks and everything like that before working for Disney.
Oh.
And for me, history was just always a passion. I took a ton of classes in college and have always, read voraciously and watched documentaries and absorbed it, but I have no training in being a historian. I don't know, but and that gives me a lot of freedom because a historian, I feel like a good historian has certain rules that they have to play by when analyzing history and facts and everything. And I am free of those rules. I of course try to relate things as historically accurate as possible, but I insert my own feelings and my own often modern take on things all the time, which a good historian usually doesn't do. But I'm not a historian, so I don't have to worry about that.
History class is the worst way to learn history.
It truly is.
I'll
Yeah.
probably have more to say on this since I'm actually a historian. At least that is
there
my
you go.
degree.
Yes. I had a question.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to history and being a fan of it, there are tons of ways you could actually do history. What made you settle on cooking?
It was from the Great British Bake Off, because I love all aspects of history. I mean, even history that I don't think I'm into, give me a book and I'll read 2 pages, and then that's my favorite time period for the next 6 months. It was more because I was bringing food into work, and I had developed this hobby of baking. And somebody said, "Hey, this is the history you're telling us because you're baking for us. Put that on YouTube," and that's really where it came from.
See, now that's fascinating. I find that very interesting. I'm definitely sold. I'm going to be watching this show as soon as I humanly possible here.
Well, and it worked because, like, one of the things that when I started YouTube, I watched a zillion hours of how to make YouTube videos, how to work the algorithm, da 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 da. And one of the things that always comes up is niche down. Don't make it too general. I was like, well, food is general. There are a billion food shows out there. History is general. There are a billion history shows out there. Mix those two things together, and it
narrows the field.
Pool becomes a lot shallower. There are like 5 of us,
Right. All right. Now here's the opportunity where I'm going to open up the floor a little bit here. Adam, I know, has questions for you because, and I'm sure I didn't cover everything because in my effort to be have journalistic integrity, I can't think of everything at the last minute here. So, Adam.
Well, yeah, there's a lot to approach here, but like in terms of history in the history class, I'm like, there's a term for that, or at least, middle school history. That's antiseptic history. That's very bland, very boring, very safe. I'm like,
right.
And a terrible way to learn history because history isn't really about what happened. It's about why it happened. That's the proper question to be asking. But anyway, before I go more into my training, I do want to start out by asking: do you still work for Disney?
No, I do this full time now.
Well, impressive.
You made a video a few months sometime last year when you were able to quit and go full time.
Yep. Made the leap.
And how does it feel to turn this into your full-time profession?
Oh, scary. Scary is the word I would use. I mean, I feel super fortunate, obviously, be able to do this, but it's scary because it's all on me and could just all go away all of a sudden. And when I was working for Disney, I always thought, well, this is a nice, secure job. It's not going to go away. Disney's not going anywhere. And then COVID happened, and I got furloughed from work, and I was like, oh yeah, nothing is for sure. And it turned out to be the greatest thing that happened to me, because that's what gave me time to do tasting history, was not working. So it actually worked out very well, but it's still very scary. Yeah.
I can imagine, since like YouTube isn't exactly renowned for being the most stable profession in the world, or streaming,
Right.
or anything in this particular branch.
Oh.
So, at least the gamble's been paying off so far.
So far, yeah, it's more the longevity of it. It's like, how long can I do this? How long will people be interested? I'm not going to run out of food, and I'm not going to run out of history, but I might run out of people being interested, or worse, I might run out of me wanting to do it.
Yes.
So,
Speaking
every dollar I can.
Speaking to this myriad hiatuses of this program.
Yeah. No, it's true. Burnout is definitely a thing, and I have felt a few times where I'm like, I need to step back. We're gonna, slow down a little bit. Luckily, I haven't ever missed a Tuesday upload yet, but
yeah, consistency is key.
yeah.
Yes.
What since you have 1 million subscribers, I'm assuming that you've received your plaques. What kind of what's that?
I have.
Ah, yes. So I don't know. Was there any kind of weight or significance to actually receiving those in the mail? Like, was there an epiphany, a sort of reality hit when that came down the pike?
It's funny. So the first one, the silver one, it happened really fast. I started the channel at the end of February, and I had that plaque by the end of June of 2020. So just a few months. And it was when I got that, and when I hit 100,000 subscribers, it was like, oh, this could be a thing. This could be more than just what I'm doing to keep myself busy while I'm furloughed. People are interested. And so that was kind of an impetus to like move forward and really double down. And the gold plaque, super exciting. I mean, 1 million subscribers is a huge milestone, and it kind of makes you think, okay, well, now I'm in it's a pretty elite club in a lot of ways.
You're in the top 10%.
But yeah, in a way, though, it had the opposite effect. The effect was, well, now I've got this. I doubt I'll ever get to 10 million, and that's the next milestone. So now what? And it almost made me take my foot off the gas for a little while, for about a month. And then I was like, well, I still need to pay the bills and everything. So that's a stupid way of looking at things. Nope, back to it. All right.
Still, that's an interesting perspective, though.
Yeah. And, I was watching something on PewDiePie recently. Regardless of what you think of him personally or his content, it's pretty amazing what he accomplished via YouTube.
Isn't he the one who got the friggin' Ruby plaque or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, he was the first solo creator to hit, I think, 100 million. And he's talked a little bit about it. He was like, once he kind of hit these numbers, he lost a little bit of his motivation, because he had nobody to chase after. He had,
he's number one.
The carrot is gone. So now all you've got is the stick. And sometimes that's a little less enticing, especially when you're worth whatever he's worth. He doesn't have to do anything. So I'm not there yet, so I'm still working.
Right. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow, Adam. That just it felt like a really logical follow-up question.
That's fine. Now, what I would want to ask is about your research methodologies. How do you acquire the knowledge to do a video?
Yeah, so it's funny because you mentioned the type of history that we learned in middle school, as
Mm-hmm.
being boring and everything, and I actually never found it boring, and I think it was because I had good teachers, but I also had my grandpa who used to tell me World War II stories, um, and I
Mm.
loved that, and I think that the problem with a lot of people, because so many people say, "Oh, I hate history," and I just look at them and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? History is Game of Thrones, but in real life. Like it is the most interesting thing that there is." Um,
Yep.
but I think that they stopped in middle school. It was like that. Oh no, I hate history. I'm done. And even in high school, a lot of us aren't forced to take history, and so we don't. So
Yeah.
the way that I learned history was via stories. And my mom was a humanities teacher, and so she taught history through art and architecture and politics and things like that. So it wasn't just a series of events. It was, like you said, it was, why are these things happening? How does this
Mhm.
connect to other things in the arts, in the things that do excite us? And so that's how I usually end up getting into research, is I
Mhm.
will find a character that I think is interesting, and I'll start learning about that character. It's a real person, but for all intents and purposes, you know, Abe Lincoln was a character just as much in to me, just as much as Aegon Targaryen from Game of Thrones was. I have no actual knowledge of them in real life. So I learn about the character, and then I prefer if they wrote something, because I love the first person narrative that of historical figures. And sometimes, and that's what I think, that's what really makes me. I cannot say that I am a historian, because I take those as not as truth, but I take those as, this is what someone was thinking in 16th century London or whatever. And
Right.
and I that's often what I base a lot of my episodes on, is these first person accounts. Well, just like today, those accounts are very often shaded with their political views, their agenda, so it doesn't make good history. Often they were just
Uh,
making stuff up as well, and
uh,
or wrong, because they thought they were right and they were just wrong. But
uh,
I find that stuff interesting, and I that's how you tell a story, is through those people's lives and those people's beliefs and thoughts. And and so that's usually how I string together the story. And it usually starts off with a modern history book, and once I find an interesting tidbit, then I just flip to the back to the bibliography. And I mean, that's the best
mm,
part of any history book, is the bibliography, because it's like you have these
uh,
real historians who have devoted their life to doing all of the work, and I'm
mm,
just like, oh, well, I'll just flip to the back and see where you found this, and then that's where I get to go real fast. And the wonderful thing about the internet is it's all there now. um that's why sometimes I feel almost like it's the difference between, like, an investigative journalist and the reporter on the 6 o'clock news. I am the reporter on the 6 o'clock news. I wasn't out there actually doing the work. I just put it all together in a nice little script, and tell the people about the history.
I mean, that is actually a lot of what, let's say, true history is. It's also less about absolutes as well. You say a
Hmm.
reporter, it's more like being a lawyer. You're not really
Yes.
telling a story. You're arguing a case. You're arguing a perspective. You're arguing your thesis statements. Now, this is all taking me back to college. Right?
But
now, do you have access
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. I mean, each week is basically a little essay with a thesis statement, and I make an argument, and spot on.
Yeah. And do you have access to like JSTOR?
Some of it. So because I don't have a like a university account or anything, sometimes I
Right.
get locked out of certain things, and usually you can read the first page, or sometimes it's been referenced somewhere else, and I found it, and I'm like, I know there's something good in here, and so I'll just pay for it. And it's they're stupidly expensive. They're always like $25 an article, but when I know something's in there that I want, it's totally worth it. And
and
one of these days I'll get full access. I don't know how.
What kind of library access do you have? Like, what kind of solid hard books can you access?
Not many in the way of a library. Mostly it's I buy them, and now I have more books than I ever thought I would.
That
When it
happens.
becomes and it's nice because a lot of the things that I look at are older, and so they're online, they're public domain, and they've been put up by the New York Public Library or Michigan State, or University of Michigan. A lot of these different groups have put up so much. A lot of it then I can get on Kindle, if it's available on Kindle, and then sometimes
Project
I'm like,
Gutenberg.
all right, Project Gutenberg. Yeah, I mean, I'm on there all day. When it comes to the more modern books about history, usually I just buy them, and sometimes that's a real pain in the butt because I have spent $350 on several books, and it's been totally worth it every time.
Nice.
But it hurts but it hurts when I put in my information to pay $350 for a book.
Now,
right. I'll
Now I'm sure
Go
we
ahead,
could
Mac.
chat. I'm sure we could chat all night, but I want to be good and make sure that we enforce your requirements here. It is 9:00, so I just want to make sure that.
Yes,
really,
I can do about
really
5
quickly.
minutes, and then I need to run.
Yeah, so really quickly.
I had one question.
Wait. We're going to let you ask that one question, and then I'm going to ask you to go ahead and plug whatever you would like to plug before your departure. So, Gollix, go ahead.
Sorry, this is kind of a cute question. I was hoping we'd have more time, but how many Pokemon plushes do you have anyway?
So, personally, I have 0. My husband has, I would say, I'm looking at it now, I'm going to say in the neighborhood of 200, probably 300. And we get more all the time. People send them to us. The Pokemon company sends them to us, and then very often I'll just get a large bill on my credit card, and it seems that somebody has gone shopping. We have a lot. We definitely have a lot, and it's funny how that started because the first episode that I filmed, not in my kitchen, which is the second episode that I did, there was Brewster from Animal Crossing in the back, and I didn't notice that he was there until after I had filmed, and I wasn't about to refilm it, so he was just there. And he was sitting on our bar cart, and then the next episode, like, Jose switched him out, and then switched him out, and now it's 120 episodes or whatever later, and we have not duplicated a Pokemon yet.
I was gonna say I didn't think you had.
Nope.
Nice. All right, Max, is there anything that you'd like to plug? Upcoming episode, appearance, anything of special note that is coming down the pike that you would like to give a shout out to before you depart?
Honestly, it's just the channel. Like I said, this next month is Titanic month. It's something I've wanted to do since I started the channel. I've always been obsessed with the Titanic, and so I'm doing 4 weeks of episodes. It'll probably end up being 6 episodes dedicated to the Titanic. It's food, the people, stories from all 3 classes and the crew. And I think it's going to be really interesting, and hopefully other people do, because I'm already committed to 4 weeks of it. So hopefully it doesn't tank the. Hopefully it doesn't sink the channel. But I'm
it's been over 100 years, so it's not too soon.
Exactly. Yeah, it's 110th anniversary this year.
That's right. That's right. All right, Max, I really appreciate you taking the time and coming out with us and putting up with our minor technical difficulties at the beginning there. And,
no, it's all good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And of course, be sure to check out Max's channel, Tasting History with Max Miller, on YouTube, youtube.com /Tasting History. And you update every Tuesday?
Every Tuesday and sometimes on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I've got time.
All right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and good luck with whatever you've got coming up.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right. Excellent. All right. So that brings us to our next segment. Of course, we'll have a little extra time today to talk about the entertainment news. So Adam, Kevin, Kira, everybody's up.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of covered the little bit that I had.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, she's saying the floor is open.
Okay. Well, I guess it's interesting that Disney got brought up this week, because I think we were planning on talking about it last week, but that kind of got subsumed. But we got to talk about Disney and its, let's say, ever evolving relationship with the LGBT community.
That's a way to politically correctly put that.
Specifically that.
So we're going to be addressing the "Don't Say Gay" thing.
Yes.
Or more specifically, the response to the "Don't Say Gay" thing.
Yeah.
From specifically Mr. Bob Chapek.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Among other things here, because other Disney divisions have been pledging more overt support. Like Marvel Studios put out a statement, a couple of days ago?
I think it was yesterday.
And it was much more, let's say, full-throated support. But here's the issue. They're a division subsidiary of Disney. They're not in the driver's seat necessarily in some of the things.
Well, not necessarily. I mean,
well, let me finish. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Okay, what they can do is they can actually make good representation in their movies instead of the shit that Disney has been doing with its movies for a few years now. It's like inserting an easily edited gay character because they're afraid of losing to China or Russia or Middle Eastern dollars or whatever.
Usually when they edit out like characters or actual gay themes, it's more of China and the Middle East. I don't think that's ever been the case with Russia specifically. It might have been 1 or 2 cases, but the majority of the cases are actually not even China really. It's more of the Middle East. Right. Or the Gulf states.
It doesn't really matter where. It matters that it's enough for them to do this.
Yes.
That's what Marvel can do. What Marvel has little, if any, say in is what the larger Disney Corporation does in terms of political contributions. Like,
that's the big thing about all of this at the end of the day.
Yeah. And the thing is, the reason why Disney's getting all the heat is because Bob Chapek opened his mouth and inserted his foot. Because here's the thing. It ain't just Disney that's doing the funding of the homophobes.
Yes.
But the other big entertainment sponsor, not surprisingly, is fucking Comcast. The owner of NBC Universal. Nobody's going after them because they say quiet. Right.
Yeah.
It's still awful, but they're not nobody's jumping down NBC Universal's throat. What I'm saying is more people need to be jumping down Universal's throat.
Right.
Because they're engaged in this shit as well.
Right.
And now, as it stands right now, because Disney has at least said they're going to pause. Here's the thing: they do not get to go back to the status quo. They don't get to. Disney does not get to go back to the way things are. It's not going to be a case of, and I had to argue about this.
Yeah, because people are going to find out if they go back to the status quo, and if they do indeed find that out, they're going to get called out on it. It is going to be exposed. Everybody is going to know. Because here's the thing: political donations are of the public domain in terms of information. You have to tell it. You can't hide behind it. This isn't black. This isn't dark money stuff. This is you.
FIOA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's how Chick-fil-A gets around it these days. They donate with the CEO's name. It's done in his name rather than the corporation's name. So, but still, you can look up who Bob Chapek is donating to as well.
Right.
The point is, this will be found out, and a lot of people have been focusing on what the audience, what the viewer is going to do. Them being fickle and move on to the next thing. That's true enough. The issue isn't that. It's it's their creative forces. I'm pretty sure our guest tonight, if he hadn't left Disney, probably would end up leaving Disney because,
or at the very least would have to be a part of the whole, movement internally and be a part of that letter, or at least speak out about it on Twitter or whatever.
Because
to say the least, he'd have words.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, it's because Disney's gay employees are not having any of this.
No,
their creators, their staff, and nor should they. Like I said, I think that they're staging walkouts this week.
Yes, they are. The first one I think was today. So, yes.
This might die down, but you will see a creative brain drain. It's because you can't straddle both sides here. You will, you're either on the side of bigotry or you're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's the end of it. It's
that's the bottom line. It's you can't play both sides, which was Disney's first response to this. If you recall, the first response to this was, we're not going to have a response because corporate statements don't matter, and we want to play both sides here because we're a big company, and we need both. We need as much political support as possible.
Because guess what? They got forced onto a side, and they're nominally on the side of progress, if only because the local politicians have been having words about woke Disney. I'm like, oh please, fucking Florida legislature, please try to enact revenge on the outsized paymaster of this fucking state.
Yes, because they can try so hard to go after Disney, but the problem is that without Disney World, without the dollars that go into Disney World, your state's screwed.
For fuck's sakes, they just gave Disney a sweetheart deal to move a bunch of staff from California to here.
Yeah, because they like it better here instead of in that stupid liberal high tax state of California.
Well, it's also, they could save a lot of money and get tax breaks on that.
Right. Taxes. It's about taxes, and those anti-corporate liberal Californians don't care. Move to Florida where we're all anti-woke and we're all pro-corporate, and here's of course with business conservatism and social conservatism, they cannot mix together. I've been saying that for a while, and here you see it plain as day.
You know, it's kind of interesting to me because I've been actually looking at a microcosm of all of these problems inside the House of Mouse unfolding on screen as I've been binge watching The Rookie with Nathan Fillion. A couple of the prominent black and or gay actors on the show have left rather acrimoniously without any kind of real explanation. Now, Afton Williamson, who played Talia Bishop in the first season, very publicly aired her grievances with the show because of racism and actual sexual assault. But which I've commented in the past seems to be a hallmark with Alexi Hawley's shows. If you look at what happened on the show Castle, also starring Nathan Fillion, in that particular instance, Fillion was more directly involved in some of the problems behind the scenes. In this particular case, though, he's actually kind of an island of calm in the center of the storm. But in the last season, Titus Macon Jr., who played Jackson West, who was kind of a cornerstone of the show, played a African American and gay cop, abruptly left the show at the beginning of season 4. And no one is talking about anything, and I'm starting to wonder if this is some kind of weird blue wall
pattern
around the goings on at Disney.
You never know. I mean,
it's always interesting to see things happen in real time, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's especially poignant it's because this week is the return of, well, I suppose for lack of a better term, Disney's big gay property. That's it's more than that, obviously, but the Owl House, it really has hit the LGBT zeitgeist. It is the show a lot of gay people are talking about.
Yeah,
and rightly so, because this is Disney representation done right. Like, not surprisingly, the creator of the show, Dana Terrace, is bisexual. I'm like, and this is a show that features a canon explicit gay romance, and and speaking of her, she has gone. She went publicly off on Disney as much as she could because
she was pretty public about it. She read the Chapek email verbatim because she worked for Disney, so she got it from the system.
Yeah.
So she's been very, very public about it. She's also said that she's been very, exhausted and
she said she's fucking tired of making Disney good. She's
basically been, airing out her grievances of working for the company and also pretty much being, shown as an example of good Disney at a time in which they're trying to use, good Disney to try to deflect.
I haven't
and she's not having it.
I haven't heard the latest on the Owl House. The last time we discussed it on the show, wasn't it being canceled?
It is still
it is still being canceled, but only the first 2 seasons have aired, and the 3rd season, which is still coming on, which is only 3 double-length episodes, is starting soon.
Yeah,
no. The back half of season 2 is starting up.
This is the back half.
Wow! They're not even as far as I thought they were. Sorry.
Yeah. This is the back half of season 2, and it's gonna start this weekend and wrap up on May 26th. I think is what I saw. Yeah,
I think so. It is also airing alongside the last episodes of Amphibia, which I admittedly have never watched.
Right.
Yeah. But that is definitely in the same.
From what I've seen, usually a lot of the TOH fandom is also in the fandom of that show too. So they're pretty much a package deal at this point.
Yeah, and Molly and the Ghost or whatever. That's like the new Disney show.
Me and Molly McGee I think is what it's called. Yeah.
But so it's Disney can do good queer content these days, which is a market change from the Gravity Fall debacle. By the way,
of course, with these things, you do kind of have to worry about what happens at the end.
Well, yes.
You've got to worry about it. You've got to worry about it. I mean, even, with the creator being who she is and all this type of stuff, we know for a fact she had to fight like hell to make it what it is. So you really do have to worry about,
I don't think they're going to kill Luke. Like,
not in terms of like killing, but in terms of like break up and not come back together or stuff like that. That's the kind of worry that you have here. They're not going to kill anybody else because that's not going to happen. But I mean, in terms of like, ending the relationship and the relationship just doesn't stick together, and it's.
I will say that will depend on the context because the foundation has been laid. With the mid-season finale, that Lutz has a very hard choice to make. Does she choose the human realm or does she choose the Boiling Isles?
Right.
Does she choose her mother or her girlfriend?
Yeah.
That's not easy, and it's not being presented as a easy choice, to say the least.
Right.
In fact, I'm expecting the first episode to deal with a lot of the fallout there.
But still, just pointing that out there. That
true. It's also, I would expect Dana to be leaving Disney as soon as she's able to, given her commentary.
Considering what she's talked about and how she's been pretty much exhausted by everything, I'm pretty sure that the moment that she can get out of there, she's getting the heck out of there. It'll probably just simply be a case of, can she, does she just get out of there completely, or does she at least try to get something off the ground somewhere before leaving?
Well, as I understand, I think she might, it might not even necessarily be of the current problem she's facing, because she never wanted to do a kid series. But when you like, she wants to do more adult fare, but it's like,
you know what, that's fine. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's like, unless she moves over to 20th century animation, that's not going to be in the cards.
Well, there's been some discussion of continuing the Owl House in non-animated form also.
Yes, there's been some discussion, but we'll see what comes of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that she might be able to find some place at this point. I mean, I'm sure that she'll find something. I mean, everybody. The last couple of we've seen a lot of big kid creators over the last decade or so. Find at least a place for adult content. I mean, it doesn't have to be out of 20th century, frankly. I mean, she doesn't even have to create something. She could just probably join another project of somebody else. So there's that too. So we'll see. We'll see, though.
All right.
Yeah. All right. I think that's about all we got for this week.
Yeah. I think overall we covered some pretty good stuff, and we're able to keep things interesting. I wish we had a little more time with Max, but unfortunately,
time constraints.
We normally get started late, and I've had some extenuating circumstances over the last few weeks that have made keeping a schedule quite difficult. I started doing Mobile Mayhem on Trovo, which actually started out really, really well. 30 plus viewers on my first episode. Very, very engaged chat. People coming in and out constantly. I'm not replacing Twitch by any means. It would be suicide to do that, because not only do I love this place, but also all of our related programming is here. But I think it was the right move to move Mobile Mayhem over there. We'll see how it goes on Friday and see if people tune in for my Call of Duty stream at 9 p.m. Pacific on trovo.live/Mac Paladin. So it's the same username as over here, but that's pretty much it. And I'm going to be bringing the VODs for my past broadcasts and archiving them here on Twitch in my Mobile Mayhem category. So you will still be able to see the content. It will just no longer be a live exclusive to Twitch. So the live broadcast will be over there on Tuesdays and Fridays, and then of course the replays will be here on Twitch, and animation and backups for Moonhawk Studios Presents will continue to be shuttled over to YouTube. So the only thing that's kind of getting dropped off my roster, Facebook Live. You know, as Kirk said to Krug, I have had enough of you. Facebook is cool and all, and it has literally potentially billions as a viewer base, and that's part of the problem. It is far too broad and far too large for me to find my niche there, especially given the types of games that I like to play. So that's it. So my two main platforms are going to be Twitch and Trovo going forward. So, but no rule breaking. As I said, we're keeping all of our exclusive content exclusive to this, and the exclusive content to there will of course be broadcast live and nowhere else. I don't do the whole multi-streaming thing because I kind of like being an affiliate. All right, so that's it for this week's broadcast, and I hope you all enjoyed our time with Max Miller of Tasting History and our discussion of the comings and goings of the entertainment industry. And what do we got going on next week? I believe we have Bea Highland she's a voice actor, stage performer, model, all kinds of stuff, if I'm remembering correctly here. Let's double check.
I think that's what you got listed.
Yep, March 23rd is Bea Highland, voice actor and entertainer, model, and podcaster. I follow her on Facebook and is a prospect for acting, of course, in the Starship Moonhawk universe. So I've been interacting with her for a bit of time, and I'm looking forward to actually having her on the show and talking about all of her experiences and what interesting things she may have to share with us. And, of course, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Pacific, be sure to tune in for more Final Fantasy IV shenanigans. The Galax will most likely be in the background commentating. I hope.
Mm-hmm. That's the plan.
Yep. So that should be another 2 to 3 hours of interesting stuff. I've completed most of the side stuff, so really the only thing left to do is to do my full-on assault of the center of the moon. And that will be it for the main quest of Final Fantasy IV. After that, we're going to start Interlude, and I am prepping to get all of the pieces in place to start streaming Final Fantasy Type 0. Specifically the HD edition for the PS4. I have all the equipment in place, and I'm starting to set up my overlays, so that way we can do that. It's all a matter of figuring out what night I want to do that on, because I'm not replacing any of the other broadcasts until we've seen it through its course. And of course, with me adding shows to Trovo instead of continuing Mobile Mayhem over here, I still have to figure that out. But I do want to do it, and I want to find a good night for everybody. So keep an eye on the channel, and we'll keep you informed. But until next time, I'm your host, Mac Paladin, on behalf of the crew at Moonhawk Studios Presents. I thank you for watching. Stay safe out there, kids.
Be well. See you next week.